had to realize that I was worth loving, loving, loving. I had to realize that I was worth loving, loving, loving.
Hello, and welcome back to the Worth Loving Podcast. I'm your host, Keana W. Mitchell, and I'm so excited that you're here for our Thursday question and answer episode. These episodes are shaped entirely by your questions, your stories, your experiences, and things you're trying to make sense of as you heal, grow, and learn to trust yourself again. So today's questions include some questions that connect directly to yesterday's podcast episode, which was how to heal after a toxic relationship. And then we also have some other questions that don't pertain to anything that we talked about. But it's good because all questions are important, right? And all of them reflect the real human challenge that comes with healing. So before we jump in, let's take a quick moment to revisit this week's main episode. So this week, we talked about how to heal after a toxic relationship, and that conversation resonated with many of you. We explored why healing feels difficult, what you're actually recovering from, and how trauma bonds, emotional confusion, and identity loss can make the healing process feel overwhelming. We talked about rebuilding self-trust, reconnecting with your intuition, and relearning what healthy love looks and feels like. And we ended with practical steps and reflective questions to help you move forward with clarity and compassion. So if you did not get a chance to listen to the main episode yesterday, then I do encourage you to go back and listen to it. But you can listen to this episode first. Whatever you decide to do, it's fine however you decide to listen to these episodes. And I do have a link to yesterday's episode of the podcast in the show notes. So let's get to our questions. Question number 1. Why do I still miss my toxic ex, even though I know the relationship wasn't good for me? Oh my God, that is such an amazing question. So, missing someone who hurts you is more common than people realize. It's not something where you're just like, oh, this person hurt me, I'm never going to talk to them, I have nothing to do with them. That's it, right? It has nothing to do with weakness or lack of self-respect. What you're feeling is often the result of trauma bonds, which are just emotional conditioning and nervous system patterns. Toxic relationships do create a sense of affection, but then they also have cycles of withdrawal and affection, right? Your brain becomes wired to chase the highs, the moments of affection, attention, and connection, even if they were inconsistent or used to manipulate you. So your nervous system also becomes accustomed to the emotional roller coaster. So when the relationship ends, your body still feels the absence of that intensity. So you may not be missing the pain, you're missing the moments of relief from the pain. You're missing the version of what you hope they would turn out to be, or the potential that you saw in them, or the future that you wanted with them. You're missing the emotional familiarity, not the emotional harm. So healing begins when you stop judging yourself for missing them and start understanding why you miss them. That compassion creates space for real change. Question number 2. How do I rebuild my identity after losing myself in a toxic relationship? This is really a good question. So toxic relationships do chip away at your identity slowly. And for anyone who's been through one, you understand how the criticism, the control, the emotional withdrawal, how it makes you feel like your needs are too much and you're afraid to ask for what you need. So rebuilding your identity starts with reconnecting with the parts of you that were silenced. A few ways to begin is revisit old interests, start doing hobbies again or passions that you love to do but you abandoned. Ask yourself, who was I before this relationship? And then, who do I want to be? I would also suggest exploring new experiences that help you rediscover your preferences. Journal about what you value, what you enjoy, and what you want moving forward. Once again, surround yourself with people who see you clearly and support your growth. Another thing I would suggest, absolutely, is to maybe, if you're living in the same house or whatever, I would say change the room. If you have a different apartment after the relationship, make sure you make the house your personal space with things that you like, things that you love, the kind of art you want, the way you want your home to look. Because that way you are reconnecting with yourself. You're learning, hey, this is what I like. These are things that interest me. So you can begin to rediscover who you were and who you are. Because identity isn't something you find, it's something that you rebuild through the small intentional choices that honor who you are. Question number 3. How can I trust myself to choose differently next time? So, as we said in the episode, self-trust grows through consistency, not perfection. So, I would say start by slowing down in the relationship. Pay attention to how your body feels around someone. Notice patterns, not promises. Notice how people show up, not what they say. Notice what someone does and not what they say. And then honor your boundaries very early, even when it feels uncomfortable. You don't have to trust yourself to make perfect choices. You just need to trust yourself to listen, pause, and walk away when something feels wrong or off. Self-trust is a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it becomes. Question number 4. What are some early signs that someone might be emotionally unsafe? Wow, this is a good question. Some of the early signs I could think of would be inconsistency between their words and their actions, difficulty taking accountability, emotionally hot and cold behavior, dismissing your feelings or your thoughts or your needs, rushing intimacy or connection, making you feel responsible for their emotions, boundary pushing. So they're pushing your boundaries even after you tell them this is a boundary and they keep pushing. Those could be some signs that someone may be emotionally unsafe. Emotional safety is not about someone who's perfect. It's about someone who's consistent, someone who's respectful and accountable. So if someone shows you that they are not consistent, that they don't take accountability, they dismiss your feelings, they push your boundaries, then these are just some signs that this may not be an emotionally safe person to continue having a relationship with. All right, question number 5. How do I stop overthinking in relationships? So overthinking is just a sign of anxiety, past trauma, or fear of repeating old patterns. The goal isn't to eliminate overthinking, but it's just to create safety within yourself so that your mind doesn't feel the need to protect you consistently and constantly. So I would suggest try some grounding techniques like journaling your fears or asking yourself, what evidence do I have for this thought? Overthinking decreases when emotional safety increases. Question number 6. How do I set boundaries without feeling guilty? Love this one. So, guilt, believe it or not, is a normal part of boundary setting, especially if you grew up in environments where your needs were minimized or you were told that you had to put everyone else's need before your own. So, you might definitely feel some guilt. The key, however, is to remember that boundaries are not punishments and that they're guidelines to how you want to be treated. So I would suggest that you start small, practice saying no without over-explaining, and remind yourself guilt is a feeling, not a fact. I also want you to remember that no by itself is an answer. You don't have to say no because no. You can just say no. And just practice doing things like that, and this can definitely help you not feel guilty when it comes to setting boundaries. Question number 7. How do I communicate my needs without sounding demanding? All right, well, I like this one. Healthy questions and healthy communication usually are clear, direct, and kind. So I would suggest try using I statements, right? I statements are things like, I feel, I need, I prefer. Because when you use that, you're not demanding, you're expressing. And people who care about you will want to understand your needs. So I would suggest start off by using I statements. Question number 8. How do I know if I'm ready to date again? I love this one. So here's what I say. I say that you're ready when you're not looking for someone to fix or fill a void. You are ready to date when you can recognize red and green flags. You are ready to date when you trust yourself to walk away. That's important. When you do see red flags, trusting yourself to walk away is huge when it comes to dating again. When you're ready, you'll feel emotionally stable and not desperate for connection. I would say you'll also be dating from desire and not loneliness. And I think these are just some ways you can tell if you're ready to date again. Your whole perspective will be different, and you'll be dating, like we said, from desire and not loneliness. So these are just some ways that you'll be able to know when you're ready to date. And it all has to do with your emotional capacity. All right. So right now, I just want everyone to take a minute to check in with yourself. I want you to ask yourself, especially about the episode today, what did I learn about myself today? What boundary or truth do I need to honor this week? What part of me is asking for compassion right now? Your healing matters, your pace matters, and your voice matters. So before we close, a gentle reminder, the new Emery Rose mini drop is coming soon. If her music has helped you or held space for you in any way during your healing journey, stay tuned. Her mini drop will be out in March. All right. Well, guys, I want you to also know that I do have a signature program called You Are Worth Loving, and this will be opening soon. This is going to be a 12-week trauma-informed coaching experience that's designed to help you rebuild your trust, which is something we talk about all the time, break unhealthy patterns, and choose relationships that feel safe and aligned with your worth. So be on the lookout for that. And guys, if you'd like to ask any questions, please submit them to the Keana W. Mitchell at gmail.com. Well, email me at KeanaWMitchell@gmail.com. And as I always say, you can share anonymously or you can share with your name, whatever feels safe. However, when I am answering it in the podcast, I will not use your name. I'll just use your question. And if it's a question that I feel like it needs a deeper explanation, I will email you back your response, okay? All right, well, guys, before I go, I want to thank you so much for spending time with me today. Share this episode with someone who needs it, and make sure you are following the podcast so that you never, ever, ever have to miss an episode. Guys, you are worthy, you are healing, and you are worth loving. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy your weekend. And this week, I do encourage you to set a boundary, even a small boundary, so that you can begin to trust yourself again in this healing process. Have an amazing day, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
I had to realize that I was worth loving, loving, loving. I had to realize